dedicated to Ed Eisner, I think, is dedicating a podcast to just what's going on with Building 7, because people just don't believe the official stories coming out of the government.
Right. In regards to Building 7, the NIST's analysis did suggest that was a progressive collapse, meaning that it was a process which the failure of the parts of the structure ultimately created the strains that caused the entire building to come down. So, for instance, I mean, you had debris from the actual towers hitting Building 7. Apparently, there was a couple of fires that were in Building 7. So, you know, and also the way Building 7 was structured, it did have an unusual structure because, according to the NIST, there was one primary reason for that building's failure was this unusual design that it had. And the columns near the visible kinks were carrying exceptionally large loads. I would say roughly around 2,000 square feet of floor area for each floor. So the analysis showed that if you take out just one of those columns on the lower floors, then it's going to cause this causes a vertical progression of collapse so that the entire section comes down.
So do you think that maybe there was another factor, a secondary explosion that somebody planned to take out one of the foundation things with Building 7?
No. I think with all the things that I said, coupled with the debris of the towers, debris from the towers hitting Building 7, and the fires within Building 7, and then just the structural damage that Building 7 had. No, I don't believe that there was any secondary devices in Building 7.
Okay. Well, what do you think about the fact that people are really questioning the government's official stories? Do you think the trust of the government has really come to an all-time low based on just the fact that what they sometimes put out and what other media sources and things uncover is not quite, it doesn't really connect?
Yes. Now, you're talking to a person that really, really does not trust government. So let me just put that out there right away. I don't. And I believe, and especially you could see with what's happening in the elections, people lost trust in our government without a doubt. And people don't particularly believe a lot of stuff that our government says when it comes to major incidents and things of that nature. However, with that said, and when we talk about 9/11, I mean, if you're going to be looking into a conspiracy regarding 9/11, the amount of people that would need to be involved in it it's too much that it would be able to be kept quiet, especially in a day and age where nothing is kept quiet.
Yeah, and I think with 9/11, I think what the disturbing thing is not necessarily that, maybe it's not some government conspiracy to do something bad, more that whatever did happen, we didn't get the clear picture on it, I think. Because when you look at the evidence, and I have an engineering background, and you look at some of the stuff, and it just doesn't, some of these people are questioning, and it's like, wow, yeah, they're right. Some of these things really are just doesn't jive with what the government's saying. And so then what happens is when you don't get that transparency, then people's brains start to just really, that's when the imagination kicks in, and you start thinking, okay, well, why would they do that? And that's the problem when the government's not honest, and when there are so many cover-ups, and when things are so convoluted, is that when you lose the trust of the people, then that's when all these other stories come into play. And that's almost a national security issue as well, because then other countries can plant things, and now you got the people turning against itself.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with it. Like I said, I'm a person that does not trust the government. In particular, with 9/11, when government officials came out and specifically had told the rescue workers that the air was okay down there, and it wasn't okay down there, and a lot of people are getting sick now because of it.
Exactly.
I absolutely believe that. Yeah, the people have lost trust in the government. And it's kind of like when you tell, your children, hey, you can't lie, because if you lie too much, and then that particular time when you're telling me the truth, I don't know if it's the truth or not.
Well, you have to protect yourself, and so at that point, I'm not, you fool me once, shame on on you, fooled me twice, shame on me. You know, it comes to that. And so people are starting to go, well, gosh, I got to protect myself. And if the government's not going to tell me the truth, I got to make sure I protect me and my family. And I think that's the danger of having, not having the transparency and not telling the truth. It's just so important.
No, without a doubt. And like I always say to my clients regarding with dealing with crisis management, and the first thing I'll say is this, is, you know, if you did in fact do this, okay, you need to tell the truth, because the truth is going to come out, and what usually is worse is not the actual act that happened.
Exactly.
It's the cover-up that ensues afterwards that gets people in trouble. So sometimes you have to take that medicine and say, hey, listen, I was wrong. This is why I was wrong. We're doing steps A, B, C, and D to take corrective action, and the public will believe you more. It's kind of like Chipotle. Chipotle totally screwed up that situation because they weren't transparent. They weren't telling the public in a timely fashion. They didn't have a plan of action, you know, to take care of the problem. And they were the ones that were saying, "Oh, our food is fresh. Our food is fresh," and that was their brand. And you know, over a couple of months, their brand was ruined because they didn't have a plan, and they weren't transparent, and they weren't telling the whole truth. Yeah,
you just got to come clean. And I wish I had this in front of me, but I remember reading a research article on a hospital in Chicago area that when it comes to making mistakes with surgeries and patients and things, they just come clean and they deal with it up front and they apologize and say, I'm really sorry, we made a mistake or whatever. And you know what they found is that most of the time the families are understanding. People don't want to sue in most cases. If the hospital, they're all doing the best and they're all well-meaning people and we really thought this would work and it didn't. Instead of covering everything up, they're just really open about it. And they have found that their lawsuits have gone down, their cost of doing business has gone down, and it's a wonderful case study for people to look at because it shows, the power of truth and just saying, hey, this is what, and then people want to go there. People would rather have their loved ones there because they know that they're dealing with honesty and integrity and people that are doing the best they can. And so it's
without a doubt, you're 100% right, Sarah. And it kind of brings me back to the Virgin Airlines. Do you remember when they were doing, Virgin Airlines was doing space exploration, and the first time that they tried to put one of their rockets up with people in it, it blew up, right?
Sure,
it
yeah.
It was a failure. However, the way they handled that situation, the way the CEO of Virgin Airlines handled that situation was unbelievable. He was right out in front of the media, telling the media everything that happened, what went wrong, what they're going to do to correct it, and things of that nature. So that's why you didn't see that crisis stay in the papers for that long, or it didn't really harm that organization's reputation because I think people understood, hey, yeah, if you're going to be doing research and development on space exploration, you're going to have some hiccups along the way. And I think
it's part of the deal. It's part of the thing. And I think that's why he is so highly recognized. You're talking about Richard Branson, and he's very well respected in the business world. And it's, I teach a class, entrepreneur class at the Carlson School of Business at the University of Minnesota, and I ran a video of him, just, leadership lessons from him. He did some talk on leadership, and he's just a great individual, and there's something that, he's somebody that you can learn a lot from just on the way he conducts himself. But, speaking of that, with all the different things that you've done, what are some of the main lessons that you've learned personally from all your experiences at the NYPD? Because I know that dealing with crises over a long period of time has to bring you wisdom and maturity of dealing with all the things that you have to deal with. Yes.
So the lessons that I definitely learned from the NYPD is that when you're dealing with the crisis, first of all, you need to scan. You need to get all the information, what's going on, get your facts straight, Because if it's that big of a crisis and you need to be in front of those cameras explaining yourself to the media, you want all facts. You don't want innuendos. You don't want rumors. What you want is the facts. So when you're out there in front of the cameras, you can tell the facts. If you do not know the facts at the time, just tell the media. Don't know yet, but we will get back in. We'll get back in contact with you when we do have that answer.
Unfortunately, we need to take another quick break, and we will be back in a moment.
Do you want the freedom to spend more time with your loved ones? Travel the world? Live spontaneously? Get ready, because the Chip Justice Show is here. Hosts Dr. Pat Basile and Chip Justice can help you build meaningful success while embracing life. Living a life you love is the end game in this new, inspirational, and empowering show. Positive changes for a life you'll love. Tune in every month on TransformationTalkRadio.com and visit PositiveChangeInstitute.co for more information.
Are you ready for a game changer? Sarah Westall is bringing you Business Game Changers Radio. Sarah brings you leading experts, visionaries, and newsmakers who provide the best commentary on big issues and cutting-edge innovations. Sarah's 20 years as a business executive will help you think like an entrepreneur with expertise, energy, and attitude. Tune in to Business Game Changers Mondays at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
What are vibes? We often use this word, but did you know vibes can actually be useful and help solve our everyday challenges? Embark on an exciting learning journey with Caitlin Keat, 11-time Visionary Award winner, specialist in vibrational energy, and the creator of Vibes Up. Join Caitlin as she takes you through the world of vibrational therapy and energy healing, with natural solutions for a modern world. Visit vibesup.com to learn more today.
Welcome back to Business Game Changers. I'm Sarah Westall, and we are talking with Keith Singer, and he was sharing with us what to do in a crisis and how to manage that properly. And we'll be returning to the interview now.
The second is, you have to do an analysis. And now, where was the genesis of the crisis? How did the crisis get to be this big? Is there any one person or people that we should point to that led to the crisis and things of that nature? And then once you have all those facts and you did all your research and you know what you're talking about, then you have to respond. And this might not be one response. You should come up with several different responses just in case if that one response doesn't work. And then after you respond, then you really have to step back. You have to see, you have to assess and say, okay, did it work? Now, if it didn't work, obviously, you got to choose another response and take another course of action. So what I learned was you really need to take your time with these things. I know there are some crises which are very fluid, and I know it moves very fast, but if you can try to slow down the situation as much as possible, that is the best thing to do because, if you're going too fast, you're not thinking, then you're going to give out bad information, and in the long run, you're going to look bad yourself.
Yeah, you have to make sure that you're poised under pressure, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think poise is a good word for that. So how are you using this experience to help executives and government leadership?
Well, what I do with, for instance, for the personal crisis management, I'll do your crisis analysis for you. I'll do the crisis response for you, and I'll do the post-crisis follow-up. For corporate, what I'll do is I do crisis management preparation.
What do you mean? Okay, what do you mean for personal? Like you would actually work with a family that's dealing with a personal crisis?
Well, absolutely. And
for
the
example,
reason why, excuse me?
Like what would be an example of something that you would work with with people, like personal level?
Okay, so for instance, now for personal, this touches me personal because I have twin boys who are 8 years old right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
And,
you got your hands full, but that's fun.
And they were born at 25 weeks, and it was called a twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome. So basically what had happened was the blood supply was not being shared equally between the identical twins, and one child wasn't getting enough, and the other child was getting too much. However, the child that was getting too much, it led to congestive heart failure. Oh. So they were in the NICU for 4 months, so it was touch and go, and I remembered going through that, and my wife going through that, and just remembering, you feel so alone in such a dark place, nothing is in your control. And when you're going through that, people aren't thinking, you could be the smartest person in the world, but when you're going through a crisis, you're not thinking smart. Sometimes you think irrational because you're under so much stress and so much pressure. So I'm the person that would come in. I'm the objective voice for you. I'm like, hey, listen, been through this. I've been through crises.